Hey guys, it's your girl Marielle. Welcome back to my channel, Friday Night Light Movie Reviews, where we do reactions and reviews to TV shows, movies, and other digital content. I do apologize. I have these huge bay windows in the sun. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about Netflix's new original movie, Passing, which is directed by Rebecca Hall and is starring Tessa Thompson. That's my shorty. Ruth Negga, Alexander Skarsgård, and Andre Holland. There are a lot of other characters, but these are the main characters that we see throughout this movie. So we're going to talk about the positives and the negatives. Do I recommend you guys checking it out, or would I recommend you guys just passing it along? And we're going to see where it falls in our stars category. So don't forget to share this video, hit that subscribe button, and follow me guys on my other digital content and my other digital platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Those links will be put down in the description bar below. Let's go. The plot of this movie is based in the 1920s in Harlem, New York, where we find Tessa Thompson's character Irene's life kind of go into this world when she runs into an old childhood friend, Claire, who's played by Ruth Negga, who is white passing. So the movie basically just talks about a time in history where if you were a fair-skinned person, whether you're a man or a woman, it was so much easier for women, I believe, to be white passing. So the movie is really focused on these terms and how it affects the community and everything. So if you know anything about Harlem in the 1920s, that's where all the rich people like Langston Hughes, Madam C.J. Walker, like if you lived in Harlem back then, you had bread. And on the opposite side, on the Upper East Side, Fifth Avenue, Soho, you know, all this other stuff, that's where the wealthy white people stayed. And there were some times where everything combined. So I do love that the film was done in black and white because of the time, the era that they were doing it in. Also because I could be reading into it. The whole black and white thing just made a lot more sense to me. The first 15 minutes was already triggering when I tell you. There's a story where Claire and Irene meet. They're in her hotel room. Her husband, John, who is played by Alexander Skarsgård, tells the story. Says that Claire was white as a lily when they first met, but as years have gone by, she's gotten darker and darker, and he told her, if you get any darker, you can pass for the N-word. So I call her Nig. What? So we saying the N-word short? And she just took it in like, isn't that just silly? Tessa Thompson's character laughed so much, you know, that nervous laugh where you gotta laugh it off, or you gonna punch somebody in the face, or you gonna wild out. And back then, you can't do that. This is a white man that's punishable for death. Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga were perfect for these parts. Their on-screen chemistry was wonderful. The way they moved through each scene with each other. It was just great to see these beautiful women playing these parts. You know what I mean? I love the fact that we see the brownstones, because if you've ever been to Harlem, New York, or some parts of Brooklyn, the brownstones are beautiful. So the costumes were correct for the era, showing the brownstones, the cars, just the way everything looked back then in Harlem, New York was done perfectly. The set production, the cinematography was great, especially the way the scenes moved. The scenes moved slow, but not in a bad way, because there was so much to unpack and, you know, kind of dive in everything that was going around in each scene. Plus, this is just how it was back then for black people white passing. It's amazing how colorism looks the same way now than it did back then. The only difference is we don't use the word white passing, but there's still colorism going on today. And this movie was played, that was the main focal point of this movie. It's just seeing the whole schematics of what it was like being a fair-skinned woman white passing, knowing that if anybody found out, you're gonna die. I mean, there's a scene where she comes home, Irene, to her home, and her maid is a darker skinned woman, and she looks at her like she's beneath her, never talks to her, giving her eye contact, that she's subservient, and almost gave this feeling like, well, you're lucky that you're my maid, my servant, because I'm black and you don't got to worry about being raped and all this other stuff. But it still was sad and degrading. The fact that Claire, Ruth Negga's character, was so okay the way her husband talked about black people calling them the N-word, saying that he hate them, and she never had a problem with it. It was almost like she turned her back on the black community, so she kind of deserves to be treated and talked to in that way. That's how I took her character in this movie. The brainwashing again back then was crazy. I mean, it was to the point where there's a scene where you see Tessa Thompson's character and another character walking down the street. They see John. He knows her as a white woman, not a black woman who's in Harlem, so she got nervous and she walked by him. But just in that meeting kind of set this whirlwind for them in this movie. Even where Tessa Thompson has a problem with her children learning about their history, learning about lynchings, and she thinks she's protecting her kids by being this white passing person, rubbing her elbows with white people, but still maintaining her relationship in the black community. But not the whole black community, just the higher, wealthier black community. They all think it's cool that they white pass, and they don't gotta worry about white passing because their husbands are lawyers or doctors and all this other stuff. But they treat people that lived, let's just say, in the bad parts of Manhattan, they're gonna look at them that they're filth. And that was what's so crazy about this whole term of white passing. There's a line that Ruth Negga's character says, it's the cruelest thing in the world to be a mother. And Irene says, but it's also a lot of responsibility. And you guys let me know in the comments, how would you feel about that line? I took it as Ruth Negga saying it's cruel to make a black woman a mother because her heart's going to be broken no matter what. She's going to be treated like crap. Her kids is going to be treated like crap. And Tessa Thompson's character took it as we have this responsibility to make sure they don't know or feel any of that, even costing you to deny who you are. That's just how I took it. It's crazy that back then white people came to black events like they were museums or a zoo just to see, oh, how are these savages working? And it was just lead you up to another part where a guy named Hugh, they were at the NCAA, oh my God, the NAACP, please forgive me, event where Hugh asks a question. Do you think us white people come to these events just because we just see we are all humans, or is it something predatory? That question to me was super deep because back then it was probably all predatory. Probably even some things today are predatory. You know, they think that you're going to find something bad to prove your point of your ridiculous stereotypes that you have against black men and black women and black children. And that line was crazy. As the time goes on in this movie, we see Irene's husband gets closer to Claire. And I think that because Irene was scared all the time, but she didn't want her children to know she was scared, and she wanted her children to not be treated badly. You can't protect your kids from everything. Your oldest son was called a dirty N-word, and you still couldn't protect him. Her husband wants to leave the country because he knows different places where black people are viewed as humans and nothing else. Claire has this I don't give a crap because she just knows she's in the shit anyway, and I think that pulled Irene's husband closer to her. Now, we don't see any cheating. We don't see any of that. I was really happy because it's nice to see a movie that talks about love, intimacy with man and women, or men and men, or women and women, and we don't always got to see sex. And I really like that they kept it purely based on the topic, which was white passing and how it affected the black community from the wealthy to the poor. And I love that about this movie. Another thing is that also Irene, there's a scene, Irene looking at Claire, almost like a sexual kind of feel, but not intimate, not like a sexual, she wants to sleep with her, but it was like she wanted to be her. She wanted to know what it felt like to move in her skin and not have the fear that Irene carries. It was sad to see, but understandable when that's all you know. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. The way they talk to their maids was ridiculous. I'm not going to talk about the end because I spoiled some things. I don't want to talk about the end, but you guys come back in the comments and let me know if you think that Irene played a part in how everything ended, or if Claire decided I'm caught now, so it is what it is. Because Alexander Skarsgård's character John comes to the party at the house and he knows that his wife was lying and he lunges. But this black lady says, you better cool it because you're the only white man in here. The same way y'all can hide black bodies, we can certainly hide your body. And things took a really weird turn. And you don't know if it was stemmed from that scene where Irene saw John and was like, man, I'm going to have to throw somebody under the bus so I don't get thrown under the bus and my family don't become attacked. You guys tell me what you think about it. Now, at the end of it all, I'm giving passing 4.5 stars. I say that because of one negative. They're from Harlem, New York, and Claire was coming from Chicago. Claire had a southern accent, a very southern drawl, and Irene didn't sound like she was from New York. So that part for me was a big negative in that way. Other than that, guys, it's playing now on Netflix. Definitely give it a watch. It's very educational, and I really like the way Rebecca Hall did it because it was able to take your own perspective, your own thoughts, and your interpretations on how this movie went, and the whole fact of colorism and how it's such a big thing still today. And as always, stay safe, be courageous. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell when you know I will be posting new videos. So stay safe, be courageous, and I'll see you guys in the next one.